In a small village, there lived a greedy shopkeeper. His shop was known for exorbitantly priced goods. The shopkeeper had a knack for extracting hefty profits from everything he sold. Money was his only language, and he spoke it fluently. The poor, on the other hand, with their cries of despair and empty pockets, were a language he chose not to understand. His heart was like a locked chest, devoid of compassion, filled only with the clinking sound of coins. The shopkeeper was a man who lived for profits, his eyes gleaming at the sight of money. Every coin that dropped into his cash register was like music to his ears, a symphony of wealth that drowned out the voices of the needy. His shop was his kingdom, and he was the ruthless ruler, disregarding the plight of his subjects. His only concern was making profits, deaf to the cries of the impoverished. One day, a poor man walked into his shop, hoping to buy some flour for his bread. His pockets were light, but his hope was heavy. He asked the shopkeeper for the price, a simple query, met with an exorbitant response. The shopkeeper, with a glint of greed in his eyes, quoted a price that far exceeded the man's humble means. The poor man pleaded, his voice choked with desperation. "This price is beyond my reach. Could you perhaps lower it a bit?" he asked, his eyes mirroring his plea. But the shopkeeper was unmoved. He shrugged off the man's plea with a dismissive wave of his hand, coldly stating, "It doesn't matter to me. If you can't pay, then leave." The poor man walked out of the shop, his shoulders drooping with disappointment. He left the shop, his heart heavy and pockets empty. Word of the greedy shopkeeper's indifference spread through the village like wildfire. The villagers, many of whom were hard-working individuals struggling to make ends meet, were taken aback by the shopkeeper's blatant disregard for their plight. They saw the shopkeeper's actions as a betrayal, a violation of the unspoken pact of community and solidarity that bound them all. The villagers, in a show of unity, decided to take a stand against the rapacious shopkeeper. They decided to boycott his shop, refusing to contribute to the wealth of a man who had shown no mercy or understanding towards their struggles. The impact of their decision was immediate and profound. The once bustling shop was now eerily silent, its owner's wealth dwindling. The shopkeeper, who had once reveled in the constant flow of customers and profits, was now left to face the consequences of his greed. His wealth, like a fading ember, was slowly being extinguished by the cold winds of change. The shopkeeper soon realized that his greed and selfishness had left him isolated. The sound of his once bustling store was replaced with a deafening silence. His wealth, which he had valued above all else, began to dwindle. It was a bitter pill to swallow. But this was not the end of his journey. Rather, it was the beginning of a transformation. He understood that his actions had consequences that extended beyond his own life. He realized that his excessive pricing had not only hurt his customers, but also himself. This was his moment of realization, a turning point. He decided to change his ways. He lowered his prices, ensuring they were fair and affordable to all. He began treating his customers with kindness and respect, understanding that their needs were just as important as his own. And with this change came a wave of positivity. His store once again filled with the sound of happy customers. He understood that helping others was the true path to prosperity. As he changed his ways, customers started returning to his shop, and his wealth began to grow once again. The once greedy shopkeeper had now become a beacon of change, a symbol of transformation. His actions spoke louder than his words as he started treating his customers with fairness and respect. His shop, once a symbol of greed, became a haven for villagers, a place where they could trust the prices and the man behind the counter. His transformation was not just personal, but it was also reflected in his business. The shopkeeper's business began to flourish, not because of exorbitant prices, but because of the trust and goodwill he had earned. The villagers returned not just as customers, but as friends, appreciating his change of heart. Ultimately, the greedy shopkeeper learned that the greatest wealth is in helping others. True wealth, as he discovered, is not measured by the coins in one's pocket, but by the respect and love one garners through kindness and fairness.